All right, we're going to start in the Eastern Conference, and we're going to go pole dancing.
You know you want it. It's time to go pole dancing. Get your mind out the gutter. We're talking about Twitter polls. My goodness.
Yes, this is pole dancing. This is where I take 3 polls from our Twitter account at the Dime NBA. You answer the polls. We react to the answers. You ready, Quab?
Yes, sir.
Poll number 1. Who is the sleeper team in the Eastern Conference? Coming in at a tie. This is a tie at 45% each. It's the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Coming in at 10% was other/comment, and someone clicked that option, or 10% of the people clicked that option and then didn't comment and let me know who other was. So team other, don't know who you are, don't know who you think a sleeper is, but let's just say couldn't be the Hawks because they had 0%.
True.
So I don't know who these other.
Maybe they weren't sure about the option to comment, so they just saw other and just clicked other.
Listen, I actually and I don't know how many people clicked other. It says 10%.
I'm one of those people, by the way.
So it's multiple people.
I just want you to know I'm one of those people that clicked other, so that's why I didn't comment.
If you clicked other, who else could be a sleeper team in the Eastern Conference?
What are we considering sleeper teams? First of all, that's what
I think sleeper team is like dark horse team that could like upset the Celtics or Bucks at this point, because let's be honest, those are the 2 main teams in the Eastern Conference.
Okay,
and who can possibly like for instance, last year the Heat were a sleeper team.
Okay,
won the East.
So that's
a team like that.
That's my other then. Heat
culture. Oh, I walked right into that.
Heat culture.
Damn. But all right. So the Heat. Okay, so you got the Heat. I find it interesting here that the Knicks and Cavs both came at 45%. I mean, the Cavs did get better adding Max Strus. They added shooting, but it's not like I think they got that much better to the point where it's like, oh, they can be a sleeper team and win the East now, especially against a team like the New York Knicks, who beat them in 5 in the first round of the NBA playoffs last year. So I entered the Knicks. Surprise, surprise. You know, you have that continuity. You have a team that I think actually plays pretty well together, knows each other pretty well. Tom Thibodeau has been there for a while. They know the system. They've been together longer, and I think that means something. You know, at the Cavs, not for nothing, it's year 2 on Garland and Donovan Mitchell. I think they're still trying to figure out what Evan Mobley's role is there. I think there's a lot of question marks there. As far as the Heat, I don't think they got better this offseason. I think the rest of the East got better, and they might have stayed the same or taken a step back, and I don't think they're going to catch anybody surprised. So that's my response to your Heat.
They're not my Heat, by the way. I'm not.
They're your Heat, man.
They're not my Heat. They're not my Heat.
They're your Heat.
They're not my Heat.
They're your Heat.
I'm a Nets fan. And that's not my other. Hey, I just believe in Heat culture. I just watched Jamal Cain drop like 20 points. Who's Jamal Cain? I'm not really sure. But the Heat just find these players that nobody knows about, and then they give them significant roles and they show out. Now, those 2 top teams are going to be very hard to beat. Just so when we think about sleeper teams, the Knicks are a strong possibility just because they addressed some of their issues from last year, adding Dante DiVincenzo. Also, just another year having Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle playing with each other is gonna lead to growth. You could say the same thing about the Cavs also, just because they addressed some of their issues, and also having the experience of being in the playoffs was kind of jarring for a lot of the younger players, just playing against the Knicks, playing in the Garden. So just another year experience can also help them. So they're also a possibility. We also we did a preview earlier a couple of weeks ago, talking about the Hawks.
Yeah,
they're a strong team. If
there are some people really high on the Hawks this year, I don't really get it. I don't know if I can trust the Hawks.
We always talk about the Hawks. The point we always make is like they have everything.
Yeah,
in terms
but nothing at the same time.
Yeah,
right?
But just nothing. maybe just a full year with under Quinn Snyder makes a big difference.
Maybe.
Because everybody knows your roles is established, so it could work out. It's just so right now, just because it's so early, it's so hard to see a team competing with those 2 top teams. Like, the only other team I'll say question mark that could compete if everything wasn't such a mess is probably the Sixers.
Yeah, that was the next question I was going to ask you. Like, where are the Sixers in all this? Because I don't feel like they're a sleeper team, but they're also a team that we kind of have to take seriously, considering they have Joel Embiid, who's the reigning MVP, and James Harden's still on the roster.
Still on the roster. He's still on the team. Everybody, and his teammates still are saying positive things about him. So
Yeah.
and he's speaking well about the coach and the system. So it's just a weird situation right now. But if some way somehow everything's copacetic, like that's still a
Bro,
top team in the East.
I am so done believing in the Sixers.
Yeah.
They've made me look
Oh,
stupid
finally,
over
finally,
and over.
welcome, welcome.
I'm so done, bro. Like they're a team where it's like not even. I don't want to say they're not worth discussing because they're going to win basketball games. They'll probably be a playoff team, and they're going to win like 6 out of 7 games. And we're going to come on here one day and be like, "Hey, maybe the Sixers this year."
You are.
No, I'm done. Like there's no reason for me to talk about the 76ers unless I hear like a full male copula from James Harden and Daryl Morey to each other where they kiss and make up in public at a press conference, and where I think things are doing great now in Philadelphia, where Joel Embiid can stay healthy for a full season, where there's no drama whatsoever. Until that happens, I don't even know how much we're going to talk about the Sixers on this podcast.
It's a tough situation just because if Harden was cool with Daryl Morey and everything, they're a top team in the East, even with all the moves that have been made. You put them in the top. It wouldn't be a top 2. You'd actually say like it's a top 3, like including.
They'd probably be the fourth best team. I think you could make the arguments for the Cavs or the Knicks.
Yeah.
But I also do think that, water gun to my head, I probably would put the Sixers third.
Yeah.
But I just don't like when I was thinking about the Eastern Conference and who could win the Eastern Conference and who could be a sleeper, and we tossed around the idea of like ranking the playoffs teams 1 through 10. We're not going to do that. But when I was thinking about it, like the Sixers didn't even come to my mind.
Yeah.
For anything,
Just
bro.
like,
we have power rankings later. We have a top 10 power rankings, the preseason power rankings. The Sixers didn't even come to my mind to rank them. Like they have just like completely left my brain as a serious basketball team, even though they're pretty good.
Even though they have the reigning MVP, one of the best young players in the league, in Tyrese Maxey,
who I like a lot.
Yeah.
So,
a guard that I guess led the league in assists and is also a future Hall of Famer in James Harden.
Right.
It's just, but then you're like
NBA championship coach, new coach
who's gonna actually implement. Like I feel like they'll play a lot more zone defense, which the Sixers were really good at in playing last year. So there are some positives you could see, but they're all just a bunch of and it all starts with Harden. So it's a mess.
Yeah, I just feel like I can't take them seriously until that situation is resolved some way, somehow. And that's probably the last I'll speak of the Sixers for this episode. Let's move on to the second poll question. Non-playoff team last year to make the playoffs this year. Coming in at 50%, it's the Indiana Pacers. In at 36%, it's the Orlando Magic. At 14%, it's the Detroit Pistons. And getting no love, coming in at 0%, it's the Chicago Bulls.
No love. That's crazy.
I thought some people would vote for the Bulls there, but I was wrong. Pacers coming in at 50%. They seem like to be, I guess, the media's darling of, I wouldn't say a sleeper team in the East, but a team that people are like, oh, you got to look out for them. They actually might not even like be in the play-in. They might skip that and make the top 6 for the NBA playoffs. What do you think of the Pacers this year?
I love the move the Pacers made. I love the Pacers roster when I was looking at it, especially during like summer league, where it felt like their summer league team was basically that was going to be their bench rotation that was playing, for your summer league team. And then I guess the trade request or issue that came up with Buddy Hield, that's kind of been pushed to the side, which I thought was a big deal, just because he was a very important part of when they played well last year. Because I think Tyrese Halliburton always mentions he's never played a game without Buddy. Like that's been the guard he always looks at, and Buddy spreads out the floor for a lot of their offense, which they're able to run with in terms of like having 5 people on the floor that can spread the floor. Right. That can all shoot threes, including Miles Turner. So that opens up the floor. And then they were one of the fastest teams, if not the fastest team in the league. So adding Bruce Brown, they got faster. Yeah, adding Bruce Brown and adding your other favorite player, Obi Toppin. I feel like they're gonna be running even more.
Yeah, I like the Pacers too, man. I'm not gonna lie. I like what they did this offseason, adding Bruce Brown and Obi Toppin. I think the underrated part about Bruce Brown and Obi Toppin, a lot of people think about Obi in the sense of leaking out and dunking and fast breaks, but Obi's actually a pretty smart basketball player, a good passer. And I think so is Bruce. I think Bruce fits into a system where you can just kind of plug him in. And, yeah, he can score sometimes, and you saw what he did for the Nuggets in the playoffs and in the finals. But he's also like a good glue guy who can just make that extra pass or make that extra play or that hustle play. And I think they got two players there who will do that for them. I think they can make the playoffs. I do think they are someone who you can shoe in who are at least going to be in the play-in
Yeah.
at worst.
Yeah.
If they stay healthy, because last year they were on track to making the playoffs before Tyrese Halliburton got hurt. So I do like this Pacers team. I did answer the Pacers with this. Also, just the other options, the Magic, they're young. I like them a lot. I think Paolo's a stud, and I think they're going to be better. They had a better second half of the year last year. But to me, that leads to play-in rather than like playoffs. Like, the Magic, like kind of what the Thunder were last year. The Thunder were like the 9 or 10 seed, and then they got bounced before the playoffs even started. I can see that from the Magic.
Would you be surprised if the Magic ended up in the playoffs? Like
in the playoffs?
In the playoffs.
No, I wouldn't.
Just because of the talent they have. Like, would you?
Yeah, I think they have a lot of young talent. And I think depending how that fits together, the guard play really is what it is for me. Depending how their guards play, it wouldn't shock me at all. They're very young and they're very exciting, and they seem to like each other and play together really well. And it would not surprise me one bit because the East is very top heavy, bro. It's like you have the Celtics and Bucks, and then you have like these teams like the Knicks and Cavs,
and you have everybody else.
And it's just like okay, now go for it. Yeah, you could argue the Raptors if they have a good season, the Bulls if they have a good season, the Magic if they have a good season, like the Hawks is another team that everybody is like, look out for the Hawks. So for me, it wouldn't surprise me if any team made the play-in. If I'm being honest with you, the Bulls too. I mean, the Bulls were in the play-in last year. A lot of people forgetting about that, and now they're healthy. So we'll see.
Yep.
I don't know, but I answered the Pacers for this one too. I agree with the public.
The public are people actually going to the Bulls? Are people actually like undervaluing like how good the Bulls can be just because of just had such a tough year last year and then had not have Alonzo for another year?
I see. My thing is that losing Alonzo is the huge piece of that. So to me, I don't think the Bulls can reach their ceiling without Lonzo, or at least without a point guard. I thought Drew Holiday would have been a fascinating spot for the Bulls.
Yeah.
Because then you would have Drew Holiday and Caruso in the backcourt at crunch time as your defense, which has been absolutely absurd. And then you have DeRozan, who, is always clutch and always is your go-to guy down the stretch, with Zach LaVine, who's one of the more athletic two guards in the league. Vucevic, who offensively is still one of the better centers in the league. I think they could have been a very interesting team with Drew Holiday. Yeah. But to me, the Bulls have always just been missing that guy who can kind of like right the ship and like lead them offensively on as a point guard.
Yeah.
And until they have that, I just don't take them seriously. To me, they're always going to be like a 7 through 10 seed.
True.
It wouldn't surprise me if they're playing again. All right, here we go. Final poll for the Eastern Conference. This is actually the one I asked first, but I saved it for last because I feel like if we had this discussion first, the rest of the conversations would have been pointless. Here's the question. Who are you taking to win the Eastern Conference? Coming in at 44% winning the poll is the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay.
40% the Boston Celtics and 16% the Field. I did have someone mention the Knicks with the Field.
Okay.
Surprisingly, it was Ariel, the guy we had. Shout out to Ariel.
Shout out Ariel.
He was our guest for the Knicks episode, season preview. Go check that out if you haven't already. But the Bucks winning this, Quab, does that surprise you?
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I just, especially after the Dame trade, it's kind of like we all had the same like reaction, like, wait, what? They got Dame. Yes, they lost Drew, which we all think is a big loss, but adding Dame and just losing the only rotation players they lost was Drew and Grayson Allen feels like a win. And when you look at the roster, it feels like a more complete team in terms of your guards and your front court. And I think that's where they differentiate between them and the Celtics, because I still worry about the Celtics front court when it comes to comes to health, when it comes to like the playoffs. I understand they have Al Horford, but they have Porzingis. It's just God, knock on wood, God forbids one of them gets hurt. It kind of changes the dynamic of the team. Yeah, and your top 6, 7 are great, but it's just you worry about your bench. So I agree with that. I go with the Bucks.
Yeah, I go back and forth on this. When we dropped the Dame episode, it was really obvious to me that the Bucks are now the favorites to win the East and possibly the favorites to win the titles, and then Vegas backed that up. And I still think to this day they are the favorites. And this past week, like I've been slowly shifting my mind from Bucks to Celtics. I'm on the Celtics train as of now.
Okay.
We should have a counter of how many times I changed my mind throughout the regular season about the Bucks Celtics.
I mean, I'm gonna be right there with you. I just feel like we're gonna, when the season starts, we're gonna have so many moments. We're gonna be like, well, the Celtics look really great.
Yeah, and for anyone who's listening, I'm not the type of person who's like, I'm going to pick the Celtics and ride with the Celtics forever. And then no matter what I see, I'm never going to change. No, I'm going to change my mind like 5 or 10. Like, it depends. I mean, I don't know how the Bucks are going to look coming out the gate with Damian Lillard handling the basketball and Giannis taking a step back with the basketball and then Chris Middleton not having the ball as much as he wants. And then the depth really not as deep as people think it is in Milwaukee. But I also don't know how it's going to look with Kristaps Porzingis, getting some burn over there and, Drew Holiday running the point position over there. And to me, I just feel like the Celtics are deeper. I feel like the continuity thing is big with me. You have Jaylen Brown and you have Jason Tatum who've been playing together for a long time. And I understand that Giannis and Middleton have been playing together for a while. I just feel like the Celtics is a little deeper in that aspect. I do think that Drew Holiday is just a better version of Marcus Smart, if that makes any sense. So even though you're getting Dame on the Milwaukee side, I do think there's like a little bit of a learning curve in the sense where you have to change your whole offense or add wrinkles to your offense, not to make Dame happy, but to utilize Dame correctly, right? They never had a player like Dame. So now there's more pick and roll you're running. There's other options that you're going to be running with Damian Lillard that will be successful because he's freaking Damian Lillard, but that's going to take some time for them to get used to. Whereas I feel like the Celtics, you can hit the ground running with Drew Holiday. You can hit the ground running with Kristaps Porzingis. You've had, someone like Al Horford, even though they'll probably play at the same time, but Tatum has played with the pot four.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Drew Holiday can play that Marcus Smart role probably better than Marcus Smart. You can hit the ground running if you're Boston. With Milwaukee, I feel like there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve.
Okay.
I do think their ceiling is an NBA championship and NBA champions. They're one of like the 7 teams I think can win the NBA championship. But for now, I just feel a little more comfortable picking a team that I feel like doesn't have to change too much of its identity to succeed right away. Also, defensively, the Bucks, Celtics are both great defensive teams, but I do think kind of switches up a little bit, right? You had Drew Holiday, who was the man up top, holding down the fort, locking down the perimeter. You replace him with Dame Lillard, who can hold his own, but now you're putting a little bit more pressure on the backside with Giannis, with Lopez, and I think that, they'll be fine doing so. I just think too many things change on the defensive end and on the offensive end for me to be comfortable with actually picking the Bucks over the Celtics right now.
Okay, that's fair enough. Also, I think an underrated part of that is also the Celtics having a full year, like with no shock of coaching with Joe Mazzulla. Kind of everybody forgets how last year he was just like, hey, you're the coach now. And and they had to figure it out. So like having the full year, and I guess the players that are there having an understanding what he wants could also make a difference. And the Bucks have a new coach, so they're might be implementing a new system.
Yeah, that too.
So that factors into it too. So yeah, I can, again, like I said, I lean more towards the Bucks, but my mind can easily be swayed to the Celtics.
Same.
So. I mean,
same. Dame could come out opening night, hit 12 threes. Giannis could have like 30, 10, and 10. And I'm like, there's
nobody stopping him. Like Dame goes for 70 and like it's just with ease. And you're just sitting there like, how do you guard this? But then you look at the Celtics and then they shut everybody down up top and you can't stop. I don't know. It's gonna be a fun season.